Okay, before we get started, this isn't actually a guide on how to write a plot in 5 minutes. That's impossible. This is me telling you in roughly 5 minutes the main tools to write a plot of a story. I usually do this in 3 steps. We're going to be cutting away to me writing the steps so that you can keep up. And if you're wondering what my credentials are, I'm actually a published author of a how-to book, and I'm about to be a published author of a fantasy novel very soon. By the time you're seeing this video, it might already be out. So, without further ado, let's get into how to write a plot in 5 minutes. Step 1, the important events. The first and perhaps most important step is solidifying the events of the story. What do I mean by that? Generally, it's the beginning, climax, and ending. See this graph on the screen? Does it look familiar? Pretty much every school has used this graph to tell basic storytelling to kids. And for one's introduction to creating a plot, it's still pretty useful. The beginning, climax, and end are the lifeblood of any great story. Each is important for a different reason. The beginning is the reader's first impression. The climax is the most memorable moment. And the ending is the last impression. Now, I know what you might ask next. Rulerverse, what if I don't know the beginning of my story yet? That's perfectly fine. That's why we have a little something called the web method. The graph you see on the screen is a method that I made up in college, which essentially connects the story events not in a straight line, but in a web of interconnecting events. You can start anywhere within the web. If you don't know how to begin, you can start with the climax, the ending, or any of the other in-betweens. Then once you have your starting point, ask yourself, what comes before? What comes after? Then fill in the web from there. Step number 2, the middle. Let's say you filled in the most important events now. That leaves the awkward middle. I often hear new writers talking about the middle, saying that it's the worst part to write. I guess I can understand where they're coming from. I mean, after all, it's not as interesting as the climax or as memorable as the ending. But I would argue the middle is actually the most important part. Think of the important events as the heart and blood of the project, while the middle is the backbone. The story would not be able to stand without it. After all, why does a big battle or emotional showdown feel so good to watch? It's because of the build-up to that big event. In other words, the middle. So start with filling in the most interesting parts, the parts that you know, and then connect those events using the web method. Writing out of order should help you come up with the in-between. To help you visualize this, here's a generic fantasy story that I've come up with just for the sake of learning. In this story, the main character Solaron tries to become a wizard to avenge his family's death. His goal is to defeat the evil and dark demons of the world. However, when he witnesses his best friend Mika die and then become one of these supposed demons, he questions everything about the world. The very nature of the thing that he has been fighting against is wrong. He hasn't been fighting demons. He's been fighting dark spirits, or in some cases, lost spirits. Now tell me, what happens as a result of this? I would say he spares the life of his best friend's spirit and tries to figure out who else knows the truth. He wonders, have other wizards known all along, or was it just him? But it can't have just been him that found out. That doesn't make any sense. You see, that's what would come directly after. And then you think, what comes after that? And what comes after that? This is how I've written the middle, and I think it's something that you should try too. Then think, okay, we've got the stuff after the big event. What happens before? Well, maybe Mika was starting to realize that something was off about the demons they were fighting, but Solaron didn't listen. A scene like this would not only create a conflict between two best friends, which is great drama, but also it makes the climax have a greater impact. So I would put that scene in, then add a few more scenes like that, and the climax will be amazing. Step 3, revise, revise, and revise. Finally, we get to step 3 of this very quick plot guide. Did you think you were done once you filled in the outline? I hate to break it to you, but filling in the outline is only the beginning. Also the first draft too. You gotta do the outline, and then you gotta do the first draft, and then you gotta do the second draft, and then you gotta do the third, and however many others you need to get the story where you want it to be. Not only that, but you also gotta do research, you gotta ask for feedback from friends, and you change the events over and over until they flow together, well, not perfectly, but somewhere where you're satisfied. Everyone's process is a little different, so I won't tell you exactly how to do yours. Just know it's a long journey writing a story. The one thing I'll say is this: I would have at least 3 revising rounds. In fact, some professional authors swear on 3 drafts. They're like, after 3, I'm publishing it and I'm moving on. 3 is a good number and should eliminate the majority of the major issues with the story. And here are the steps right here to reiterate. Step 1, the important events. Step 2, the middle. And step 3, revise. And that does it for this quick writing guide. If you're not subscribed and you love writing, welcome to the channel. We'll be doing videos on characters and world building really soon. Although at the time of filming this video, I am currently publishing a book, so there might be delays. Sorry in advance. But back on the topic of the videos, let me know the questions you have down in the comments. In the meantime, I hope I've inspired you, and happy writing.